Hi, my name is Dr. Betsy Nesbitt Wagner, and I am one of the co-chairs of the counseling division here at Denver Seminary, and I'm also the faculty supervisor of the Kaleo Project. It's been an absolute joy for the last couple years to get to be a part of this project and get to witness and hear and engage with you all in the amazing innovation work that you're all doing with young adults in the Denver area. And I just want to say thank you for your participation, for your willingness to experiment and try and sometimes fail and learn from those experiments. I think the work that you all are doing is foundational, both for this project specifically, but also for what we're learning about how to more effectively reach young adults with the life-changing truth of Scripture and just the powerful, powerful redemptive work of the gospel. So thank you. I have the joy this month of sharing with you 4 small videos. We are going to be talking in each of these videos about stages of faith and how we understand faith development across a lifespan. And the reason for this is that we have talked a lot throughout the Kaleo Project about understanding generational cohorts and generational identity and how generational culture impacts where people are at spiritually. But there's an underlying piece that exists that crosses generational lines, and that is what we're going to talk about as stages of faith. Most of what I'm going to talk about comes from James Fowler's book, Stages of Faith. And Fowler was a researcher, a philosopher. He was a believer out of Harvard, but the research he did was not specifically religious. It was on faith, and it was on faith development across religious affiliation. And what he found is that, very similar to other types of psychosocial development, that faith goes through a developmental process as well and has different stages to it. And then, similar to his work, um, a woman by the name of Hagberg wrote a book called The Critical Journey that is kind of taking a lot of his kind of his ideas, but then applying them within a more specifically Christian context. So if this is of interest to you, I'd encourage you to either check out James Fowler's book, Stages of Faith, which I will warn you is a bit dry, or to grab Hagberg's book, The Critical Journey, which reads a little bit better and is a little more specific to Christian faith development. But we're not just talking about Christians. While that is the context in which your ministry exists, obviously we are trying to engage both Christian and non-Christians of the millennial generation of this young adult cohort. And understanding how faith development works is really important. So what we're going to end up talking about is I'm going to give you a bit of an overview today. And then the next video, we're going to talk about what's called stage 3. And this video after that, we'll talk about stage 4. And the video after that, we'll talk about stage 5. And the reason we're just going to grab those 3 is because that is where almost every adult in any type of ministry you're doing will land, from even teenagers through the elderly. We, barring some other mental disability, cognitive disability, or some other impairment, most adults will land in stages 3 through 5. So that's where we're going to go. So as I said, stages of faith is this idea that spirituality and faith is innate to all humanity, and that as people we have faith in something no matter what, and that whether we attach that faith to organized religion or to kind of a more nebulous sense of spirituality, we all have faith, and our faith goes through, or can go through, various stages. So Fowler in his work talks about what he calls pre-stage 1, and then stage 1 and stage 2. And we're not going to spend much time on those just because those stages naturally kind of progress as we go through our other normal psychosocial development. So as our cognitive development goes forward, as our emotional development goes forward, we move through those stages most of the time as well. But stage 3, which we'll talk a little bit more about in the next video, stage 3 is really about conformity and about belonging and about having a community with which you feel like you have some sense of identity from them. And stage 3 is where we naturally find ourselves, generally in adolescence, and unique to this developmental process Stage 3 is the first and the only stage that we can really choose to stay in for the rest of our development. So you can have a 14-year-old in stage 3, and you can have a 94-year-old in stage 3. And we'll talk in our next video as to why that is and what goes into that. But stage 3 is about wanting to understand the right and the wrong, the black and the white, the what lets you be in the group versus out of the group. And yeah, we'll dive into that more in a little while. Stage 4, which we'll talk about in our third video, is what is generally defined as a crisis of faith. And this is a time of really deep unsettledness for most people, and it has a limit to it. The amount of psychological distress that stage 4 causes means that most people can't stay in stage 4 for more than about 7 years at a time without having to either figure out how to move back into stage 3 or move forward into stage 5. And for many of you, this is where you will find your young adults, is in stage 4. So we'll spend some time on that in our third video. And finally, we'll talk about stage 5. And stage 5 really, Fowler says stage 5 can't be fully embodied until at least midlife. So generally by about 35 is the earliest you would see somebody who is fully embedded in stage 5. So these aren't necessarily discrete stages. You can have somebody who's kind of got one foot in one stage and one foot in another stage, but Fowler says that stage 5 really can't be fully embodied until about midlife because of the other psychosocial development that has to take place. So, and stage 5 is characterized by the ability to hold two seemingly contradictory truths in faith. So the ability to hold mystery, to go back to metaphor and symbolism and the unknowns of faith and be comfortable there. So that's just kind of an overview. I look forward to sharing more with you over the next couple weeks. And again, just thank you for your investment in the Kaleo Project, in young adults, and in the work that God is doing throughout the Denver area.